And as you heard earlier, we are coming to you live from the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg in South Africa, and a hive of activity as always with the Top Women Conference. It is a Standard Bank Top Women Conference, and a lot happening at this point in time. And before we do anything else on the show, we always start with the question of the day on hashtag Africa Update Ask, as we broadcast live from the Standard Bank Top Women Conference at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg. We would like to know from you if you think Africa is doing enough to build women up. Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and at Channel Africa 1 on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update with Lulu Kapu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, today, as you heard earlier, as mentioned, I am joined by the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. That's Deputy Minister Mapaseka Letseke. And we've been having, different conversations, and a lot happening here on the ground. And Minister, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, and to the listeners of
Channel Africa. Yes. Now, tell us about your role here at the Standard Bank Top Women Conference, and why you feel that it's necessary for such conferences to continue happening and pulling women up.
Yeah. Look, we must first congratulate Standard Bank and Topco Media for this initiative. It has been going on for the last 2 decades, and I think this is incredible, where you advance gender equality. And for us, part of why we are here as a ministry in the presidency responsible for women, youth and persons with disabilities, to lift what does it mean to dismantle the barriers that keep women in the margins. This is not just policy only.
Yeah.
Our constitution is very clear in terms of non-discrimination, in terms of equality, in terms of dignity, but also our policies that we have enacted throughout that seeks to really ensure that women are not left in the margins. Women are empowered, they are equipped, but most importantly, what about financial inclusion? What about unpaid labor? What about opening the markets that Mamtembo in Lusikisiki, who's running a small business, can feel the same support that a woman who's running a printing company in Johannesburg or in Mpumalanga can feel the same power. So we're here to say that as South Africa, we've progressed. We have so much achievements, but we also have challenges. Unemployment, economic growth is at 0.6%. And we are here to say we will lift it together. Government can't do this alone.
How do we then do that? Because it's challenging.
Yeah.
You come across women in the streets, and they've got a little table there on the side of the road. Then there are issues of bylaws coming into play.
Yep.
Even though they're not implemented, because you'll find that on a daily basis, at a certain time, Mamsbongile will be sitting on the corner of the road with a table of sweets and so on.
Yeah.
And then there's also the downside to that, in the sense that then there's additional issues of criminal elements that come into play. How do we then ensure that even though Mamsbongile is selling in the corner, that empowerment that does eventually come, how does that happen without exposing her to the criminal element? And criminal element, I'm speaking about people who end up joining her corner and selling drugs and things like that. How do we work around that?
Absolutely, you are spot on to raise the issue of bylaws and the limitation and challenges that comes with this, but also in terms of transformation. And we have, when you look at how economy has been driven in our country, we have both informal and the formal sector. And I always say, don't just look at a formal sector and think it's the most important driven approach to the economy. The informal sector drives also economy. It's in the rural areas, it's in our townships, in our villages. But what is key to that is whether we have modernized the informal sector, coordinated it, and also be able to tap on its opportunity. Because the Magwenyas in our community cells,
Yeah.
it feeds the nation. It actually, the Mamtembu has taken their children to university with those Magwenyas. We all have a story to tell
Of course.
about our background and so forth. So how do we actually modernize that? And this is where you look at some new policies. I mean, Minister Stella Ndabeni has published a policy for consultation and for comments that is looking at small micro enterprises, the medium enterprises. What is the threshold? And how do we actually support these women, these men, these young people who are entrepreneurs? That small scale, a woman who makes 500 per day, it's important.
Very.
Because that's also even different for somebody who's working for a company who earns 100 rand per day. But that woman who's actually using it for products, where do they actually get the products? And if you look at what the township development policies are saying, we are going to open up markets where women don't have to travel so far to go get a packet of chips. But the same way, we're going to bring those markets closer. But what is the second approach? You look at the Spaza Fund to say that this business that Mamtembu has been operating in Alexandra now can actually grow. Let's lift Mamtembu to grow this business from standing on the corner to a spaza shop. She's been operating for 35 years. We've seen the challenge, and now this is why I'm tapping on the point that you've raised about the bylaws. During this food poisoning saga that has happened, we lost a lot of children.
Yes, we did.
And I met with women hawkers who has been selling for 30 years, and they said to me, Deputy Minister, what do we do now? We've been selling for 35 years. We've never had an incident.
What has changed now?
So what we have done is to actually organize these women. They are now an association.
Okay.
Secondly, they are now registered. So they are a business legitimately that is registered. When we then took into the opportunities of small grants and even spaza shop, those women showed up because now they are complying with that. But the challenge now is trying to match a woman who's operating at a small scale and wanting to have compliance that is like a big business. I think that's an unmatched. And this is where, when our discussions with small business development to saying, how do we reduce these compliance requirements, but while these women also ensure the safety of the children? So it's quite important. It's a daunting, very big task, but it's also about transforming the informal sector so that those who are operating in those small sectors, they can still be relevant and they can comply.
And Deputy Minister, you know, Standard Bank, as you mentioned in the beginning, in your intro, basically, is the fact that this has been ongoing for a number of years,
Yes.
over a decade.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that young girls, young women, end up in such platforms and even beyond? Because I can tell you, over the years that we've been doing the Top Women Conference and Standard Bank, we've spoken to women from different facets in terms of digital marketing, IT, and agriculture. How do we ensure that the young people at ground level get to experience such opportunities before they make up their minds with regards to what sectors they want to go into?
Absolutely. Look, South Africa is a country with many opportunities. Education is very important. Let's take what has been happening around empowering young people while they are still in school.
Yes.
That sectors are changing, the skills needed are changing, the errors in terms of economies are driven by this. So historically, you would know that there were limited sectors that we could participate in. But right now, the world is changing that young people can participate in the green economy, energy sector,
Yes.
digital sector, and also even climate change. You know, you can look at the oyster, it's so big that we can, but it starts with education.
Yeah.
The second part, I think we need to urgently couple this education of information of specific sectors with financial literacy. Our country and the world is also being driven by entrepreneurs, self-empowerment that is there.
Yeah.
Our economy is not only looking for job seekers,
Yes.
it's looking for job creators. But for you to be in the job creator clan, you now need to know how you're going to drive that particular sector. But you need to know what is also important to this. But if you look at all of this, we've got quite a lot, including the National Youth Development Agency, which is equipping young people. You may have an idea, but you have partners like us, partners like NYDA,
Yeah.
partners like other departments, including small business development, that says that we will help you take the business that you have towards that. And Standard Bank has done it greatly as well.
And
through
they
collaboration.
always do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Deputy Minister, unfortunately, I wish we could
Yeah,
go on, you
yeah,
know, because
yeah.
this conversation is something that needs to be had on a continuous basis and ensure that there is deliverables and accountability going forward. And I'd like for you at some point to come and join us in studio and we
Anytime.
have this conversation, because I feel like a lot more needs to be done. Standard Bank needs support from all angles,
Absolutely.
you know, when it comes to what they've already, you know, achieved in terms of positive thinking and deliverables on their side. Thank you so
Indeed.
much for joining
Thank
us
you so
on
much.
Africa Update. That is the Deputy Minister, Honorable Mapaseka Litseke. She is a Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, joining us here at the Standard Bank Top Women Conference, which is underway at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg in South Africa. The 21 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live at the Standard Bank Top Women Conference, which is underway at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg. And I have joining me Mia Delanga, and she is with the Gerbe South Africa. And she'll unpack for us exactly who Gerbe South Africa is and why you decided to come through here and be a part of the Standard Bank Top Women Conference 2025. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Lulu, for having me.
Now, Mia, just to unpack for us what your presence here is all about and what you're hoping to take away from this.
Thank you, Lulu. So, Gerbe South Africa specializes in the field of medical imaging, which is diagnostic and interventional imaging. So within this space, we also work with women's health, and that comes to breast cancer. So later today, we'll have a session on the role of advanced imaging and transforming women healthcare. And coming here today is obviously we hope to foster relationships, to support women, and to find more connections that we can leverage from and grow and help our partners in women's health as well to create good in the field and to make imaging available to women in underdeserved areas where they do not necessarily have access to screening.
And what sort of response are you getting? Especially, you just mentioned something that's very key for instance, in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape, where it may be difficult for women to get, imaging or to get tested done for, as you said, whether breast cancer or any other type of cancer. And then you find that in the urban areas like Johannesburg in the Gauteng province, you'll find that in some hospitals, the equipment is not working, so there are disparities, but in reality, you find that a lot of women are in the same boat because of that.
That is definitely a fact, and it's true. So the access to imaging and imaging technologies for women, sometimes even in Johannesburg or in rural areas, is a huge concern within the government sector and sometimes even in the private sector as well, or where patients pay out of pocket. And it's very important that we see how we can all work together to see how we can foster these relationships and work with NGOs, so for instance like the Pink Drive, who is one of our partners as well, who has mobile screening units that goes out to communities to do this kind of screening, and to find more partners that's willing to partner on education, because a big part of not being screened is also education and stigmas within communities. So we need to educate from our schools to our communities, as well as sisters and nurses within in those areas. So for us as Kabai, we love contributing to these products and see if we can support imaging being more available to communities. And then obviously from our side, we have technologies which can help and support these imaging being done and for women, and also artificial intelligence solutions for the future, which is the heart of medical imaging going into the future, to earlier and faster and quicker diagnose patients so that we can treat them quicker.
What are you finding? Is it easier? You mentioned something also that's very important, is the issue of stigma, where you find that we don't generally think about stigma playing a huge role when it comes to cancer, and you just think people would generally know, or people would have heard of somebody having cancer and the processes that they've been through. Is it better to target the younger generation in terms of the education side of things and ensuring that whether it's in universities or whether it's the last year of high school, where they're able to also send the message across, not only to their family members who are elderly, but to the community at large?
That is definitely important. Education from a school level is critical to educate the youth as well, so that they can educate the communities, and then within the universities to do outreach projects more often, so that we can educate the students in healthcare professions, if they would be assisted in a rural clinic, how to do a breast examination, so that they can help those women, because unfortunately it is found that even sometimes that lack of education in those areas tend to women not being diagnosed quick enough.
Well, Mia, it's been an interesting one, but what are you finding here? Just seeing so many people in one space and literally everyone talking over each other because they want to understand, why are you here? I'm here to do this,
I think seeing today, feeling the energy, the vibe, the collaboration, the excitement for people to want to come together, to create synergies, to make a difference is absolutely fabulous. I'm very excited about today. It feels like on the one side the time goes very quick, and then on the other side it goes slow for my butterflies for later. But it's like a combination. But I think this is an amazing platform, and there's fantastic collaborations that can be done. I mean, over any sector within South Africa.
Yeah.
To take women forward and as well as to support the country and communities, because if our women are doing good, our communities is thriving.
Definitely. Mia, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update today.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
That's Mia de Lange of Gerbe, South Africa, joining us live here at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg. And it is the Standard Bank Top Women Conference 2025. It is underway, and as you heard, a hive of activity. And, you know, it is continuing for the rest of the day, and a lot coming up in this time. And our question to you today is about this conference, and our broadcasting live from here at the Standard Bank Top Women Conference at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg, South Africa. We want to know from you, what do you think of such conferences, and do you think Africa is doing enough to build women up? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update Us.
Ya kwanza, kwa nini ulianzisha biashara hiyo?
Tutasema kwamba maisha ya kila siku ni kwamba mtu anapashwa kuwa na maisha ya kuweza kujitegemea, usitegemee kuajiriwa, lakini utegemee kujiajiri, na baadaye utaweza ukaajiri wengine. Na hiyo ilinipa msukumo mkubwa kwa kuweza kujiajiri na kampuni hii kwa ajili ya kuweza kuwasaidia wale ambao wanahangaika zaidi.
Unauza aina gani ya dawa?
Unasema ni dawa, lakini kwetu sisi tunaita kama vile ni pipi, ambayo ni virutubisho ambavyo vinakwenda kusaidia kwa wale ambao wanatatizwa na aina tofauti ya magonjwa.
Virutubisho hivyo sasa vinatibu magonjwa gani? Virutubisho
hivi vinatunza magonjwa kama vile ya kisukari, shinikizo la damu.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next.
Central African Time.
It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next with Jalani Tulongwepe.
Perspective.
Lulu, good afternoon. Making headlines, Malawians remain on edge as they await the outcome of last week's election vote. Provisional results from one court of councils show former President Peter Mutharika has taken an early lead. South Sudan's first Vice President Riek Machar is set to appear in court today, this as he goes on trial after being accused of murder, treason and crimes against humanity. And finally, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused Western leaders that have recognized Palestinian statehood of rewarding terrorism. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with athletics. Botswana has declared a public holiday to celebrate the country's victory in the men's 4x400 meters at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, the first African nation to win the event. President Duma Boko hailed the gold medal as a historic African win in an online address, praising the team for their performance. He announced as a holiday to celebrate the achievement a day ahead of the country's independence. That will be on the 29th of September. On Sunday, Botswana's team of Lee Begempilo, Epi Litsile Tebogo, Bayapo Ndori, and Busang Colin Kibinatsipi edged out the U.S., the winners of the last 10 world titles, in a rain-drenched race. South Africa took third position. Let's hear from the president.
As they exploded onto the world stage earlier today, we saw what resilience, hard work, grit, determination, self-belief can do. We are proud of our boys, proud of the coaches, proud of all those who put in hard work.
Team South Africa, or Timor from the African continent, have risen to celebrate with 8 countries making it to the medals table, collecting a combined total of 23 medals at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. Kenya led the way as the top-performing African nation, finishing second overall behind the United States with 11 medals, 7 gold, 2 silver and 2 bronze, an improvement from their showing at the previous championship in Budapest. Botswana also impressed, securing 2 gold in the men's 4x400 meter relay, 400 meters and bronze in the same race, placing them as the continent's second best team. Ethiopia, though not as their usual dominant best, managed 4 medals, but none of them gold this time. The other countries, Tanzania celebrated gold in the men's marathon. Algeria, Nigeria and Morocco each claimed a silver medal. And South Africa wrapped up with a bronze in the men's 4x400 meter relay, featuring Lyth Pillay, Wade van Niekerk, Udemo Ogoni and Zagiti Nene. On to cricket news now. South Africa will be without injured captain Themba Bavuma for their test in Pakistan next month. But Quinton de Kock will come out of one-day international retirement to play in both white ball series on the all-formats tour. South Africa begin their defense of the World Test Championship title with a 2-test series in Pakistan starting in Lahore on the 12th of October, but must do so without official batter Bavuma, who has a calf strain. The tourists will take 4 spinners on tour, though Keshav Maharaj will only be available for the second test as he recovers from a groin problem. South Africa's Proteas women betting coach Bakia Abrahams pointed to the players' change of mindset as one of the reasons behind their improvement performances as they look to continue their performance and their form into the ICC Women's World Cup.
I think you've got to commend the ladies about in terms of just their growth mindset and their hunger to want to get better. I think coupled with the skill development has also been sort of a mindset and belief in terms of their capabilities and what they are capable of. But in terms of the sacrifices, I mean, yes, Tasman has been one of probably 5 or 6 ladies that have been prepared to put their hands in their pocket and come out to PE and literally go through like a 3-4 day camp. And I think all the performances you're seeing from all the batters is due to the hard work and dedication they've put into their craft and their skill.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. This September, Channel Africa celebrates Heritage Month, a time to honor the stories, the rhythms, and the languages that make us who we are. Whether you're in Lagos or the shores of Zanzibar, to the mountains of Lesotho or the markets of Dakar, we are united in diversity.
Najivunia kuwa Mwafrika.
Kukondolera Afrika ndiye nduwake.
Proudly African and fabulous.
Let us preserve our languages. Let's embrace our uniqueness. Let's embrace our cultures and celebrate the beauty of our continent. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Business news on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Good afternoon. Canal Plus and MultiChoice say all the conditions to Canal Plus's $2 billion takeover offer for the South African television broadcaster have been fulfilled, making the deal unconditional. Canal Plus owned 46% of MultiChoice as of the 19th of September, with another 2.2% of shares tendered in its favour since then. This gives Canal Plus effective control of the television broadcaster. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is not expected to seek a bilateral trade meeting with the US President Donald Trump on the fringes of the high-level segment of the United Nations General Assembly this week. This is according to Dr. Kingsley Makubela, a former diplomat and international relations expert and director at Risk Recon. He says the South African delegation should instead focus on other matters, including their engagement with U.S. business, where they will be attempting to provide a more informed perspective on the state of the country's political economy. Makubela explains why this should be the focus.
There's been a hype around the country. There's been a hype around, and to a large extent, a misinformation around the political dynamics in the country. South Africa remained very stable within the framework of the democratic dispensation in the country. There's no way that South Africa poses any threat for anyone's investment in the country.
South Africa's Democratic Alliance Federal Chairperson, Helen Zille, has raised concerns over the finances of the city of Johannesburg. She claims to have reviewed the city's budget and discovered on a number of irregularities, including the duplication of jobs and poor allocation of funds for maintenance. On Saturday, the party announced Zille as its Johannesburg mayoral candidate for the 2026 local government elections. In her acceptance speech at a rally in Soweto, she described the decay of the city as an example of bad governance. She says her first objective is to stabilize the finances of the city.
In Johannesburg, there is enormous duplication. So you have all these municipal entities, and you have those jobs duplicated in the administration for reasons that I still can't understand. And instead of providing huge professional capability through those municipal entities, they are really like the state-owned enterprises. They are there for deployed cadres. Then there is the serious problem of the division of the budget between operational and capital expenditure. Then you have the problem of far too little money going into maintenance. Joburg spends less than 1% of its budget on maintenance, the lowest of any city. It should be edging up to 8%.
The South African rand is little changed today as traders look to this week's local data releases for further clues on the health of Africa's biggest economy. The releases expected this week include a leading business cycle data, the Producer Price Index, and the Central Bank's quarterly bulletin. The rand traded at 17 rand 33 against the dollar, within a touching distance of its close. It has since urged up slightly, 17 rand 31 against the dollar. Sweden's 2026 budget will inject about $8.5 billion into the country's economy. The Swedish government hopes that this will speed up sluggish growth ahead of a general election next September. Tax cuts for workers, pensioners and companies, lower VAT on food and more money for defense were among the main measures in the most expensive spending bill since the COVID-19 pandemic. The budget also contained more money for schools, healthcare and civil defense, as well as higher housing allowances for low-income families. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 492. In Botswana, it's at 13 pula 11. Kenya, 128 shillings 63. And Zambia, 23 kwacha 61. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you 5 rubles 32. Russia, 83 rubles 41. India, 88 rupees 9. China, 7 yuan 11. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 31 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Gold is trading at $3,692 and platinum $1,420 per ounce. Brand crude oil is at $67.10 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Thabisolo Hoko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Kabu on Channel Africa. On Channel Africa.
It is 12:41 Central African time, and thank you to Tabiso Lohoko with our business news. We're coming to you live from Johannesburg at the Sandton Convention Centre, where the Standard Bank Top Women Conference 2025 is underway. A hive of activity here with people, with lots of women having conversations, discussions, panel discussions, and a number of speakers on the podium. Earlier on, we spoke to the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability, and also a number of people who are in attendance, as well as the Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training, also in attendance as one of the speakers in all the different panels. Now we go to Guinea, where the Republic of Guinea's High Commissioner to South Africa, Moriba Alain Kone, has described Sunday's referendum voting on a new constitution as a historic step for his country. Speaking to Channel Africa at the Mandeville Sports Club, one of the voting venues in South Africa, Kone said the new constitution would serve as the cornerstone for Guinea's future, helping to organize national governance and pave the way for upcoming presidential elections, possibly as early as December. Now, the new constitution hopes to lay the foundation for a sovereign, united and prosperous nation with strong institutions. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
Sunday's constitutional referendum marked a pivotal moment for contested elections and political instability. For many Guineans, the question is whether, in a long history of broken promises. Speaking to Channel Africa, Guinea's High Commissioner to South Africa, Moriba Alain Kone, described the voting a step in a right direction.
Today is a more important day because we are calling people to vote for our new constitution. The new constitution is very important for our population, our country. That will help our country to organize everything. After the new constitution, that is more important, is the big law. It's the first law in the country. After voting, we will have a new constitution that will help our country to have to organize presidential election.
Following the referendum, the outcomes will pave a way for the presidential election probably scheduled for December 2025. Kone says a decision is yet to be made.
We don't have a decision first, but we think that will be December. If it's not December, we will have maybe in next year. But if it's December, it's very important. It's good. So we organize a presidential election.
Mandated by a regional body, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to help observe the voting, Gambian High Commissioner to South Africa, Fatoumata Jahumpa Cissé, lauded the process.
As an African and as member of ECOWAS, and His Excellency thought it wise to write to my office that if I am available to come and observe their referendum today, which is the voting process here in Joburg and in Pretoria, and they also conducting in Durban. So I said, why not? Guinea and Gambia has a long-standing relationship. We are even families, and it's my duty also as the High Commissioner to come here also to represent my country and the other West African countries that are under ECOWAS that are here, who has also mandated me to come and observe on their behalf. And I think the process is going on very well. It's an electoral process. It's a new constitution. And we wish the Republic of Guinea under Colonel Doumbouya to progress, because it's one of the richest countries in West Africa too, naturally, if they have everything.
She declared the process free, fair and inclusive, urging those who are against it to speak through the ballot.
So I came this morning to accompany His Excellency. We saw the process. It's fair and free, and people are coming, and there is no hustle, and it's well organized. And as usual in Africa, you have more women coming out to vote. I've met a lot of women here voting, and it's very important. You cannot sit at your home and say, it's a new constitution, I don't agree with this on it. But then come and extend it where you don't agree at the ballot box.
The incumbent junta leader, Mamadou Doumbouya, toppled President Alpha Conde in a September 2021 coup and is seeking office to guide the country toward a constitutional state. A young voter, Musa Diallo, is backing Doumbouya, saying the process will require the youth inclusion.
Actually, Mr. Doumbouya, yes, is the soldier, and we see him come to the power like military. But actually, if we need to change the country, we need the young people to move forward and helping him to fix the country what is wrong. Actually, nobody gonna help us if he didn't help us first, our citizen in the country. So we must look at him and teach him what he don't know about it, and we do what is right for the country.
He says that the youth left the country not by choice but due to instability. He called the government to create a conducive environment for all to thrive once Doumbouya is constitutionally elected president.
To travel like is not the option for young people, but if they feel they are not safe in their own country, they do what they don't supposed to do. But if the country, the government feel about their own population, creating the job, creating anything the people need, so safety, security, education, so everyone need to live in his own country, not like young people like me to stay in overseas and leave my country. And I'm so proud with my country. So I ask the government, if that is happen, Doumbouya come to the president, must think about that to call the Guinean people to come back and work together. So giving hand to hand.
Guinean Community Council in South Africa chairperson Alaji Diallo said the constitutional referendum is the will of the people and significant for Guinea's development.
This is really very important. This is the referendum. It's the will of the people, right? So inviting people to come in and vote so that they will predict their future, they know what they want for their future, is a very important situation. So this is really a very good thing. This is very, very much significant. It is a very important thing. Our president is doing something great, something new that we've never seen before, like including the diaspora into the Guinean development. Our country development is a very important thing.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Well, it is 12:49 Central African.
Johannesburg.
Well, it is 12:49 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg. We're at the Sandton Convention Centre, where the Standard Bank Top Women Conference 2025 is underway. And I can tell you now, there are discussions taking place, different conversations, women from all walks of life, and not only women. There are a few men. Well, there are some men around, and they're also, chipping in these conversations, because it's always a good thing to get a male perspective where they have info and a way of doing things that a woman could do differently. But if you put those things together, it just becomes something very exciting. And with the number of women on these panels having conversations, I need to add that I'm being joined by Andra Nell, who is a head of corporate affairs at Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, when we say KFC, I think everybody's eyes just pop up, and everyone just starts feeling hungry.
Absolutely. It's so great to be here. And, this wouldn't be proper and complete without South Africa's favorite taste, which is the taste of KFC.
Of course. And now we want to know from you why you're here as KFC. And what are you finding from the different discussions, the panel discussions, the conversations that you're having with people that are here? What are you finding, and what are you learning as a representative of KFC? Because there has to be a lot of takeaway for you, and you already have your corporate hat and thinking, okay, we need to go and start looking at these angles in different areas.
So I think firstly for us, so whilst feeding people is why we exist as a business, feeding their potential is our purpose. So as KFC, we've been on this journey for the longest time around how do we make more seats at our own table for women so that everybody feels like they've got a rightful seat that they can take, and how do we get them to feel like they've got the confidence to own it and stay at that seat at the table. So this has been a journey for us for the longest time, and we've seen the very real dividends pay out in our business. We're seeing strong female leadership bench coming through. We don't have to worry about where the next female leader is going to come from, because it's automatically now starting to come to its full right. What we have seen, though, and that's what I'm taking away from this morning, is that if we all keep on doing this work in isolation and in our own corners of the world, it's going to remain finite. Yeah. But the infinite possibilities exist when we start collaborating. And that's what we want to do as KFC. We've got this proven playbook now that works for our 40,000 people across our business, 60% of whom are female. So we've got this playbook, and now we are wondering, how do we take hands with other corporates? How do we democratize the learnings that we've had? How do we share that extensively, not for our benefit? We're not going to get much out of it, but the reality is we have to do our part for society as well, beyond just our own corner in the world.
And I also want to speak about the Add Hope, which is, if you go through a drive-through at KFC, that's the first, once you finish making your order and you drive to the window where now you have to make payment, actually even before you get there, they ask you, 2 Rand for Add Hope, and automatically it's a yes, because you're thinking, your mind is already, you're not even thinking about it. It's like second nature. How do you get that right?
Well, it's the power of consistency, because we've been doing that for 16 years. But I think Addo, very similar to female empowerment, it's just one of those things that we do. And we could have always, because we started out with KFC contributing, and we still do, but it would have been far smaller if we kept it to that. So what we did is we introduced the 2 Rand and said, like, every time you come to KFC, like, there's this opportunity to be part of something bigger. And I think that's the same conversation that we're having on female empowerment, is that as we add hope, and we've seen, last year it was more than 100 million Rand between KFC and the public's donations that now go to feeding kids every single day. Now we get to do that on female empowerment too.
And talk to us about the female empowerment element in the sense that where does it start? Do you go down, to the younger people? How do you filter it through in terms of, do you start with young people and then develop with them as they get older and as they get entrenched in whatever industries they're in? Or how do you generally work?
So generally for us as a combination, we started off this journey through a leadership empowerment program, because what we wanted to make sure is that we get female into positions that they can fully own that seat and become inspirational leaders and examples of what it can be to have female leaders in place. And then what we're doing now is we're partnering with all of our franchise partners to roll out the SPACE program, which is a community of belonging for women, because it starts off with having a conversation, and SPACE is a module guide that tells you exactly how to start having those conversations. What are the ways that you take your workforce on the journey? And then, of course, as we have a new, younger workforce starting to become part of our business, we know this is increasingly important for them. In future, this is not going to be a competitive advantage. It's going to be table stakes. So if we don't do that as a business, and we're not part of ensuring that all the females in our business are empowered, the reality is we're not going to have empowered communities. We're not going to, be able to make an impact in the corners of the world that we operate in. But we see it in the same way. So 90% of the 3,000 feeding centers that benefit from Add Hope are female run. There are women that in their communities have taken up the plight to go, I want to make a difference here. And you and I both know that's not different to women in all corners of the world. So there's this common thread about the impact that women are making and how they're continuing to make a difference. And for us at head office and then our 40,000 workforce, we want to make sure that all women feel like they can take that seat at the table.
And now, just touching on the franchising, where you find that most of the franchises are owned by men. Any KFC that you walk into, what program do you have for women ownership, and what numbers are you sitting at in terms of female owned and run operations?
So there are increasingly more leaders that come through every day, but I'm not going to say the job is done. There continues to be a job to do. I don't think the training or the empowerment is different. It's the same job to do, whether you are a franchise owner or whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you are somebody, just trying to make ends meet as a single mother. It's all very much part of the same journey. So yes, it continues to be a focus for us as a business, but we're not saying the job's done. We're going, it's still a journey to go on.
Wow, you know what, Andrea? It's been quite an interesting conversation, and these are the conversations that we've been having with a lot of women that we've chatted to today, and just seeing the experience, and with the different exhibitions, it's quite exciting, and then the fact that you as KFC representative is also here, which is a good thing. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful that I had this opportunity. The one thing I'll leave you with is what I've been most inspired by today is women owning their agency over their own lives and their own destiny and their own future. So if there's anything I'm personally taking away from this is the fact that women are crafting their futures. We're not dependent on anybody anymore, and if more women can believe that, we will continue to see a better and better South Africa.
It's all in our hands as women.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Andra, for joining us on Africa Update today.
Thanks, Lily.
That is Andra Nel, who is the head of corporate affairs at KFC in South Africa. And it is 12:57 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. And you know, every time we are out of studio. You know, we get to know Tracy will wave her arms as she does normally in studio. And we always say that we need to do a hand over to our team that is in studio. The Upside team, Tebogo Kuleni, is in studio today. Tebogo, you know, we're not there. We're not there. We are with you in spirit, but we're coming from the Sandton Convention Center, and it is the Standard Bank Top Women Conference 2025. How are you? Happy Monday, and what's coming up on the Upside?
KFC representatives. I don't know if you're able to get me a bucket there, just, you know, for the rest of the year.
Let's get it done before Andra leaves, and then her and I can have a conversation. And you know what? You never know. We could have KFC brought into studio for us, you know?
You see, now you're speaking my language. Even Tumelo here in studio is salivating at that thought. Here's what's coming up. Here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. And the conversation that we start off with is going to be a roundtable discussion, and it concerns media sensationalism versus toxic masculinity. Right? Does the media fan the flames of toxic masculinity through rage bait headlines and exaggerated narratives, or does it simply reflect realities of society? We'll be addressing that question this afternoon. And then we find in the property segment of our show, we find out what the African property trends are ahead of the festive season. Are more people buying now? Are they selling? What's the trend? What's happening on the ground? And then in our inspirational segment later this afternoon, we get into conversation with a 10-year-old CEO. And he is the founder of Danger Escaped. And we want to find out all about this business. At 10 years old, they were invited it was brilliant. It's brilliant to know that there are young people like that.
10-year-old. Wow.
I was not doing anything of the like at 10 years old, I tell you that much. But they just returned from the Global Business Week, and the Startup World Cup Championships will be reflecting on that and what it takes to run a business at 10 years old. You should be like doing multiplication and botmas, not starting a business. That's all coming up on the Upside.
Well, you know what? But remember, this is actually what we need for South Africa.
That's all coming up on the Upside.
But remember, this is actually what we need for South Africa. Well,
actually, right?
Yeah. So, and the African continent as a whole. Well, we have run out of time, Devza, and I will be back in studio tomorrow, and we'll have more conversations. And that's where we leave it today on Africa Update. And the Upside coming up at the top of the hour with Tebogo Kuleni and Matsiko Moseto. For myself, Lulu Gabu, and the Africa Update team, it's been a great one. We are back in Auckland Park tomorrow, and continue with us on our socials. Bye-bye.
SABC News.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Cholani Tulo.